Off, and absolutely every play in between is amazing. From football to basketball and hockey to baseball, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. 21 plus only. Must be physically located in Arizona.
80% of youth in Arizona don't drink, smoke, or use drugs. Want to know the reason why? It's you. Kids say not disappointing their parents is one of the main reasons they choose not to drink or use drugs. Visit TalkNowAZ.com because while you might worry you aren't getting through, you are. Keep it up and stay up to date about the latest Arizona drug trends at TalkNowAZ.com. This message is sponsored by the Substance Abuse Coalition Leaders of Arizona.
4 years. That's how long it took Democrats to ruin our economy and plunge our southern border into anarchy. Who helped them hurt us? Ruben Gallego. Washington could have cut taxes for Arizona families, but Ruben blocked the bill. And his fellow Democrats gave a bigger break to the millionaire class in California and New York. They played favorites and cost us billions. And Ruben wasn't done yet. Democrats could have secured the border. Instead, they invited an invasion and used our tax dollars to pay for it. Ruben Gallego even backed the law to let them vote in our elections. Don't give Gallego and the Democrats another 4 years to hurt us. Give your support to a real Arizona leader, Kari Lake. Kari and the Republicans will secure the border, support our families, and never turn their backs on us. Kari Lake for Senate.
I'm Kari Lake, candidate for U.S. Senate, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Kari Lake for Senate and the NRSC.
The road to better health leads to my longtime friends, Dr. William Gaspar and his wife Ava at Beehive IV Wellness in Chandler. J.D. Hayworth here, and the buzz about Beehive is spelled out in its middle name. IV. Not only are today's popular treatments available, IV hydration, joint injections, semaglutide for weight loss, as well as many more, it's also the Gaspar's holistic naturopathic approach that helps your body with self-healing. That means treating the underlying causes of chronic disease, from chronic fatigue to fibromyalgia, even those dealing with Lyme disease and lupus. The experienced medical staff designs a customized plan for each patient. So walk in or make an appointment today. Mention my name, J.D. Hayworth. Get half off your first treatment. Better health awaits you at Beehive IV Wellness in Chandler. Search Beehive IV Wellness on your cell phone. And remember, you'll thrive at Beehive.
We are getting ready to crown a champion.
Championship weekend is coming back to the desert.
Let's get this party started.
4 title races in 3 days means there will be a buzz in the air all weekend long. Whether from the grandstands, the infield experience, or the hillside, this is your chance to witness history and make championship caliber memories for the whole family. NASCAR Championship Weekend at Phoenix Raceway, November 8th through the 10th. Get your tickets now at phoenixraceway.com.
KQFN Tempe. Also transmitting on K257CD Phoenix at 99.3 FM and K240 EU Mountain Hills at 95.9 FM. Wherever you go, take us along. Listen to our live stream on our free Fanatic app. Download it today.
And we're so back. This is the book live. And we are broadcasting live from sunny Uptown Scottsdale, the 1580 The Fanatic Studios. Brought to you by Harman Solar. I'm Keon Rose. Alongside me is Dylan Cohen. He's our betting expert. And today on the show, we've got a lot to talk about. It's not so easy being green. That's what the Eagles found out last night. They lose to the Atlanta Falcons. We're going to get to that in segment one. Then afterwards, we're going to check the pulse of our beloved Diamondbacks. Are they doing okay?
We're going to have a conversation about that. Had a pretty tough break last night in that game against the Rockies.
Yeah, so we're going to have to maybe have an unpleasant conversation about that moving forward. As always, we are joined by you on the Fanatic text line. That is 888-368-1580. And Dylan, who powers the show?
We are powered by Sport Trade, which is the newest sports betting app that is going to be coming to Arizona. You can look them up now. You can get your account set up and You can get everything all squared away. They are going to be launching before the end of this month. We will know the exact date fairly soon, perhaps maybe even by tomorrow's show, but don't hold me to that. But these guys are just changing the way that sports betting works. So you're not going to want to miss out on this. They've got better odds than just about every other book that is active here in Arizona. The live in betting play just works seamlessly. No spinning wheels, no risk of your odds changing once you place your bet.
No app telling you that you just can't place the bet anymore. It's locked. We're done.
Just flat out no funny,
Yeah.
no funny business with these guys.
Yeah,
I mean,
very, very straight up and professional.
And you know, to cap all that off, you know, just absolute first in class level of customer service. So really doing a lot of different things to, you know, change the way that sports books work, and we're very excited to partner with them and help spread the word.
And some folks have already texted in about how they're excited about this new sports app, Sport Trade, and you know, they've already visited the website and checked it out. Highly recommend that you go there and play around with their odds calculator, because it turns, you know, the lines, the betting lines, into essentially what is the percentage of something happening that the book thinks is going to occur. And you can put those lines in from any sport book, not just Sport Trade, and get those numbers back to you in numbers that maybe make a little bit more sense or a little bit more intuitive to understand, which I'm a big fan of personally.
Oh, huge fan of it as well. Now, as amazing as that feature is, I'm not sure for this past week in the NFL, you know, how helpful it would have been. Just because it was like almost every single game was just getting turned on its head. And, you know, last night was no different. The pick that I had put out in that game was for the Philadelphia Eagles to win on the money line. Definitely did not like them on the spread, considering the way that underdogs have performed this past week. And
you weren't exactly wrong.
Well, lo and behold, here's another day where conventional wisdom did not carry through. And instead, we were treated to a pretty exciting last minute victory from the Falcons. Really just fine-tuned last drive from Kirk Cousins, you know, really stepping up to you know, show his worth and show that he's worthy of that $180 million contract that he got from the Falcons over the offseason. He was able to orchestrate a late drive to Drake London to put the Falcons up. And then the Eagles were, you know, going down the field to try and get into field goal position. They had time left to do that. They were, you know, making their move down the field, and Hurts just rushed a long ball to Devontae Smith, who was double covered, and it just was not a very good throw. It was short, and Devontae did not catch the ball. The Falcons caught it for an interception, and that was the ball game. So, I mean, in general, you know, neither one of these teams are my team, you know, outside of the fact that the pick I put out didn't win. You know, that wasn't fun to see that lose, but I mean, still a great NFL game. A lot of really exciting finishes this past week. Keon, what were your takeaways from this game?
I had a few. One, I genuinely was impressed by that bounce back game by Kirk Cousins. I thought that he looked a whole lot sharper. He played a complete game, start to finish. Impressive, coming off of an Achilles injury that he already looks this good. We're not seeing that same kind of bounce back from Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, of course, is older, so I'm not trying to say that he's, you know, less athletic or less physically gifted or whatever the case may be. Just that Kirk Cousins is showing not just his worth, but that maybe that Achilles injury isn't something that you necessarily need to worry about with him. There was enough mobility out of him. He moved pretty well in the pocket. Obviously, the 2 touchdowns, he protected the football, no interceptions thrown for Kirk. I thought Kirk Cousins on a Monday Night Football, which he's been much maligned for, looked really good. Looked really, really good. I think that's my biggest takeaway. What about you?
You know, Kirk is definitely one of my takeaways. Bijan Robinson, that man is the you know, engine of the Falcons. You know, the way that they rely on him for rushing yards, for receiving yards. I think my just absolute biggest takeaway after week 2, which I was telling you before we got on, I don't really think I'm going to take a stab at trying to pick winners next week, because now I'm just in this place where, you know, normally after week 2, you'd be
yeah, you have a better idea of what's going on, but what does your data actually mean right now when you have teams that were playoff teams a year ago, teams that went to title games a year ago, they're 0-2. What am I supposed to make of the Ravens?
I mean, my lens on the NFL is not as sharp as where I feel like it would normally be after the first couple of games, and it's just one of those things. We'll have to wait and kind of see how it plays out. But there are some very reliable guys that you can bet on, as we're still trying to kind of sort through all this uncertainty with, kind of the hierarchy of the league right now, with that rushing plus receiving betting market, which you can find very commonly for running backs under like the rushing props section of most sports books. Bijan Robinson last night, I want to say his line, we looked at this. It was like just a little bit over 100 combined rushing receiving yards.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure he blew that out of the water.
Yeah, because he had the 97 rushing by itself. So all it would have taken was a few more passes, but it was more than that. He had
122 combined.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is something where I've been having some success with it over the last couple of weeks, taking guys like James Conner, Najee Harris, Breece Hall. You can definitely add Bijan Robinson to that list. It's probably
normally Saquon.
And normally Saquon as well. And actually, to Saquon's credit, last night
he did hit that.
He did.
It's just
if
you took Saquon Barkley anytime touchdown and saw him drop that pass at the end, you might have put your remote through your TV.
And that unfortunately was one of the other bets to consider yesterday. Now, I will say, even though the picks yesterday didn't pan out, got 7 out of 10 on the other bets to consider. So 7 out of 12 overall on the day. I'm not going to complain when we're getting over 50%, but
right.
Those two picks, and we'll get to the Dimebacks a little bit later on. I mean, those were two very close, very near, almost wins. They ended up being losers. So just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes, but there's new picks that got posted for today. We've got baseball today. We've got WNBA today. So still more opportunity to get back and beat the books. But with this Falcons and this Eagles game, and this was something else I mentioned to you, Keon, it's kind of interesting now to sort of go back and start to look at the way that the division futures market is priced. Because there's definitely some overreactions. There's maybe some underreactions. It's pretty interesting the way the kind of lay of the land looks right now, and could be an opportunity to still be able to buy a team that you probably are thinking is a lot more likely to win their division, but maybe their price doesn't necessarily correlate with that. Maybe there's a good opportunity there.
Yeah, there might be. I mean, and we'll get into this maybe a little bit later on in the week, but there are a couple of those teams that have dipped to 0-2 that I'm not convinced are bad teams, but obviously the market's shifted on them now. Maybe there's an opportunity for you to jump in and take a potential division winner at a price that might make some more money for you.
Your Commanders are currently tied for the lead in their division, and you can get them at 12-1.
Unbelievable. I'm tempted. I am tempted. I try not to bet with my heart, but I am tempted. I didn't expect them to look like this. I'll be honest. The defense is very bad. That's not changing anytime soon. But the offense looks like it functions, which if you told me at the beginning of the season that I'd have that, I wouldn't have believed even that, to be honest with you. They look really, really good.
And I mean, if anyone has already started to take a look at lines for week 3 in the NFL, I have to imagine you're feeling just this feeling of being lost and confused the way that I am, because it almost feels like kind of more of the same of what we just had this past week, where actually this week was probably worse because there were many games that were priced as if they were fairly one-sided. They certainly looked very one-sided on paper, and then the result we got was absolutely not what we expected.
And in the event that it was one-sided, it was opposite of what anybody thought it was going to be, like the Cowboys and the Saints, for instance.
So really just kind of makes you question, your gut, feeling on things. I'm looking over the schedule right now, and I mean, there's a number of these games where it just feels like it could go either way. I mean, you've got Packers and Titans. Packers, defense really stepping up and proven to be this elite group that they have that, just compensates for, their quarterback situation right now.
Yeah, and I do think you got to give LaFleur some credit there with the play calling and Malik Willis. He allowed Malik Willis to play a game that Malik was comfortable with, and it led to not an explosive offense, but one that was pretty steady and stable. When you combine that with the defense, that one's pretty good. How about Texans and Vikings? That's another one that 2 weeks ago, if you had said this was a 50-50 type of game, I wouldn't have believed you. But the Texans offense did run into a little bit of a struggle against the Bears defense, which is a very good defense. But the Vikings have a very good defense. And apparently the Vikings have a pretty good offense too.
Well, the Vikings at home are priced as an underdog right now.
Yeah.
And again, it's one of those ones where, like, if I'm just kind of applying the way that I think about these things, especially before week 2 happened, there's no way the Texans are going to lose this game. Now,
exactly. I mean, there's absolutely a way the Texans could lose this game. We've seen it. It happened to the 49ers playing the Vikings this past weekend. So we've seen a lot of these upsets kind of change not just how you end up looking at the NFL, but just the things that you are certain about that you've taken for granted. The Niners and their victories you've taken for granted. I think the Ravens have been taken for granted. Now you can't. You have to essentially critically think about every single decision that you make as far as betting if you're going to take NFL winners.
I think this one's pretty interesting. Eagles at Saints. Eagles are priced as the underdog, plus 132. I mean, I just, the confidence is, it's not there, but obviously I'm naturally drawn to Eagles above even money. I mean, that feels like,
it feels right. You know, they did just lose barely. AJ Brown wasn't healthy. Like there are plenty of reasons why they didn't get the win on Monday night yesterday. But is the Alvin Kamara resurgence real? I don't know. Is Derek Carr finally looking like an actual NFL quarterback? I don't know. Is that defense going to maintain what this is? Oh, I have no clue. The Saints are such a gigantic question mark in every possible category. I genuinely don't know what to make of them when they match up with a team like the Eagles, who I feel like I have a handle on, but I thought I had a handle on the Cowboys too. And well, look at that turned out.
Well, so Saints are priced, they're favored by 2.5 points in that one. But here's another interesting one. The Arizona Cardinals are currently 3-point underdogs at home to the Detroit Lions next week, over at State Farm Stadium. So you have an opportunity now to get the Cardinals above even money. They're priced on the money line at plus 124. So again, here's another spot where on paper before week 2, I would not have given my Cardinals any ounce of a chance in this one. Now it's like night and day. I mean, we might have one of the more elite wide receiver quarterback duos in the league. I mean, certainly if Kyler's first 2 passes are going to be Marvin Harrison Jr. touchdowns again, it's kind of hard to push back against that notion.
And we didn't really see Trey McBride get going last week until near the end of that game, but he's obviously going to be a massive factor in this too. You're just looking at a lot of different things in that game, especially because I feel like the Cardinals, obviously they have their defensive struggles, but so do the Lions. The Lions are giving up a lot of yardage to wide receivers so far. I just think that this is a game that could at the very least be a shootout. And, the Cardinals are priced as an underdog.
And then you have Baltimore Ravens at Dallas Cowboys. Ravens are the favorite. They're favored by 1.5 points. You can actually get the Cowboys right now, money line at home, for even money at plus 100. I mean, this is here's another one. I mean, you cannot escape this. I mean, the Cowboys looked so sharp in Cleveland against the Browns, just to turn around and get spanked at home by the Saints. So now you've got Lamar Jackson and the Ravens coming in, and these guys are hungry. They don't have a single win yet. I mean, this is not going to be an easy win for the Cowboys, but then again, I mean, shouldn't they kind of have enough talent there to be able to pull off a win at home?
You would think so, but it's just what we've seen from Baltimore is that Baltimore's offense is still the same offense that we've seen it be. It hasn't taken a step back. It's their defense against the pass that really is an issue. But if Baltimore keeps the football, they run it, they burn the clock, they possess the football and keep Dak and that offense off the field, the Ravens could take this one in dominant fashion. If the Ravens don't get going quickly, they have to play from behind. What does that look like? I don't feel confident about just about anything I'm looking at again this week.
And I mean, again, Chiefs at Falcons. Chiefs are currently priced as the favorite. They're favored by 3.5 points. You can get the Falcons as underdogs at home on the money line. They're at plus 152 right now. So again, I mean, it's difficult for me to discredit the Falcons, seeing what they just went to Philadelphia and did last night. The Chiefs are playing like the Chiefs, although now there's no more Isaiah Pacheco. Hollywood Brown's going to be out until sometime early next year is what it's looking like. He's got to have shoulder surgery done. So I think the Chiefs were looking to use Kareem Hunt as the
yeah, I saw they were looking
plan.
to get Kareem Hunt. I don't know that Kareem Hunt's going to come in and be the number one guy. They do have the rookie Carson Steele on the roster. He had a very good preseason. A lot of people like him to at least get that initial workload and see how he does. If it's not working out, then Kareem Hunt becomes insurance. But it's a weird situation with the Chiefs because Pacheco is such a big part of that offense, just as a running back, but also as a pass catcher. We'll see what Steele offers, but because he's a rookie, we just have so little information on him. More unknowns, and it's the question marks that make these games really tough to bet.
So, I mean, we'll see what kind of information comes out, between now and Friday. There maybe is some more injury news that comes out or, other things that kind of influence the way that we're thinking about these things. But as of the way everything looks right now, I think the best advice I have is probably to look to play more player props for this next coming NFL week and maybe just stay off the winners and the losers. Just give it a little bit more time for everything to play itself out there, because it's so difficult even now where, I mean, like we were saying before, I mean, in most seasons past, by week 2, you would have such a stronger notion of, what does the totem pole of the NFL look like right now? Who's towards the top? Who's towards the bottom? And that's the kind of thing that guides you in trying to put together, a 4 to 6 leg parlay or something greater or something smaller of just winners. That's usually something I try and take a stab at on any given week. But especially the way things went this past Sunday, the way things went last night,
right?
Gotta stick to the player props right now.
Yeah, that's the way it's shaping up. And if we have some more upsets in week 3, like I don't even know what we're gonna do next week. It's just I want the normal. Okay, I understand that when you're a fan, you complain sometimes when the same teams win all the time. I want some parity in my life, but also let's figure out who's actually good at this so that I can know what the hell I'm doing when I make some bets.
Just give us some consistency. It's really not too much to ask for.
It really is. It really is. So we've got more. Well, we'll get to some of those ideas a little bit later on in the show. But coming up next, we've got to take a look at the Arizona Diamondbacks and what's going on with them. Are they okay? I'll take a quick look at the text line. We're going to jump to break, and then we're going to come back and talk a little Diamondbacks on the other side. We've got the moist one saying that in my experience, the Packers always find a way to win against the tight ones. Big George says, well, if the text line wanted to function, that would be nice.
Never wants to cooperate.
It never wants to cooperate. Big George says, Dylan, wasn't Sunday's game amazing against the Rams for our Cardinals? The Rams played like a 6-pack of ass. It was amazing to see. Go Cardinals, Diamondbacks, and go ASU. Baker's Cocky Hen says, what has Hunt done that the Chiefs have forgiven him for kicking that woman and lying to them? And what Kareem Hunt has done is have a pair of legs and play running back in a system that he already knows. That's what he's done. They're not signing him because they suddenly think he's a good person. They are desperate and in the middle of a season. Robert from Surprise says the AFC West just got interesting. It really did. It really did. We're going to get to, maybe we can get to that a little bit either today or tomorrow. We've got plenty of time this week to get into some of the particulars of the NFL. But first, we're going to check the pulse of a baseball team that we all know and love, that they've kind of been floundering the last couple of series, and we haven't really focused on it because we've been so dialed into football. Glad to have it back, but let's check on our Diamondbacks on the other side. You're listening to Beat the Book. That's Dylan. I'm Keon, and this is 1580 The Fanatic.
1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic.
Live and local.
A new app called Sport Trade is coming to Arizona to cut the vig in half. Search Sport Trade Wales to see the great prices Sport Trade players are getting in real time.
If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP.
Tommy, I can't wait for golf this weekend, huh, buddy? Time flies. Love you, man. Oh, don't forget your knee brace again. We aren't in college anymore.
Moments together matter, so help protect yourself from RSV. If you're 75 or older or 60 plus with a chronic condition like asthma, COPD, heart disease, or severe diabetes, you're at higher risk of landing in the hospital from RSV, and there are no prescription RSV treatments. Check eligibility and schedule your RSV vaccine at vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Now open in Scottsdale. It's United Forte Custom Door Showroom with 40,000 Euro doors and hundreds of state-of-the-art designs and finishes on display, plus kitchen cabinets, bathroom vanities, and more, all at wholesale prices. Builders, contractors, designers, and yes, you. Come see our showroom on Greenway Hidden Loop. That's United Forte, P-O-R-T-E. Stop by to see and feel the quality. United Forte Custom Doors. Find us at uporte.com. That's uporte.com.
It's fall football season, and Kasai Japanese Steakhouse is doubling down. Now with 2 Valley locations. When it comes to Asian cuisine, no one does it better and more authentic than Kasai, where talented Teppan chefs create the food, the fire, and the fun of teppanyaki. Kasai Japanese Steakhouse isn't just dinner, it's dinnertainment. A memorable dining experience where a delicious 7-course meal is prepared right at your table with flair. It's a perfect choice for celebrations, date nights, or a night on the town. Choose from over 30 different items and combinations of teppanyaki, Asian fusion, and innovative sushi. Happy hour is always on fire and offered daily with specials on their Asian-inspired comfort food like Korean steak tacos, Mongolian barbecue ribs, and signature Wagyu beef sliders. Always a memorable dinner, or catch the game and a bite at the bar at Kasai. Now the 2 locations. Scottsdale Road in Thunderbird, and in Peoria at the 101 in Northern. Go to KasaiTeppan.com. That's K-A-S-A-I Teppan.com, or search Kasai on your mobile phone.
We are getting ready to crown a champion.
Championship weekend is coming back to the desert.
Let's get this party started.
4 title races in 3 days means there will be a buzz in the air all weekend long. Whether from the grandstands, the infield experience, or the hillside, this is your chance to witness history and make championship caliber memories for the whole family. NASCAR Championship Weekend at Phoenix Raceway, November 8th through the 10th. Get your tickets now at phoenixraceway.com.
My name is Mary Grace. Early diagnosis is key, but make no mistake, it is a devastating disease.
For more information, contact us at alz.org or through the 24/7 helpline at 800-272-3900. Sponsored by the Alzheimer's Association.
1580 The Fanatic.
Money your way.
So the Diamondbacks,
they're a little concerning.
They're a little concerning. Now, last night, largely a good game until the very end for the Diamondbacks, where a walk-off error gives the Rockies the win. And I think after this series and some previous series where they haven't won them, I think it's time to ask the question, are the Diamondbacks okay?
And, going back to that game yesterday, this was a game where we pretty largely had our A squad of players. Lourdes Gurriel is still on the injured list, but we had Gabby Moreno back. We got Christian Walker back in the lineup. Ketel Marte was in there and playing. And, right in the first inning, the D-backs took an early lead. Ketel Marte had a 2-run homer. So, they got control of the game pretty early on. And we had Merrill Kelly pitching yesterday, and he only allowed 1 earned run. I mean, really did his job for the most part. We had managed to keep that 2-1 lead all the way till the bottom of the 7th when the Rockies were able to get a home run to even it up at 2-2. And I was telling this to Keon before the show. The state of the bullpen right now is so frustrating and disappointing for the Diamondbacks that, I mean, when we come into these games and we're down 1 or maybe we're up 1 or perhaps it's tied and there's only a few innings left and all we're going to have to go with as far as pitching goes is all of our relief pitchers. I mean, it doesn't make you feel confident about the way the game is going to go. And I mean, watching that game last night over the last 3 innings, I desperately wanted my Diamondbacks to win, but I almost kind of knew deep down that like something was just going to go wrong. And admittedly, I mean, the bullpen did do fairly well. I mean, no, runs given up in the 8th. And then what happened in the 9th was that it was Ryan Thompson. He gave up an early single to get a runner on first. They then intentionally walked the next batter. So that way they had runners on first and second, and they were leaving the double play possibility alive. We didn't have any outs at that point. And then the next batter came up, and he ended up hitting like a ground ball pretty much directly to second. It was like a textbook double play opportunity. And we got the runner out at second, and Perdomo tags the base to get him out, makes a throw to Christian Walker at first to then complete the double play. But the throw he makes goes wide, and Walker is probably the best first baseman in all of baseball to have in that situation where you need this guy to be really flexible and stretch, try and reach and grab the ball. And he did his best, but this was just a wild pitch.
Yeah, it was just
a
such
wild throw.
Yeah, I mean, it was such a bad throw that it was a choice you would have to make at that point, either make the catch or keep your foot on the bag. And Walker was trying to do both, and he just wasn't able to because no one could have. That's the argument I'm going to make there.
Yeah, and I mean, once that ball got away from him, the Rockies had a runner at third. He was able to get home pretty easily, and that was it. So really, really, disappointing way to lose that one. But now you kind of got to take a step back and really kind of look at the Diamondbacks right now, and it's something that's been swept under the rug a little bit, but over our last 10 games, the Diamondbacks are 4-6 right now. So they've only managed to win 4 games out of their last 10. And then, looking at their last 4, they've only won 1 time. So 1-3 in the last 4 games. And then you look at what's left right now, and this is where it starts to get a little concerning. We have 2 more games against the Rockies in Colorado. We then go 4 games in Milwaukee, who's currently leading their division. They just beat us in a series at home. That's not going to be easy to beat them. Then after that, we get 2 more series at home. We play the San Francisco Giants, and then we cap off the regular season with a 3-game homestand against the Padres. So the competition between now and the end of the season, it's only going to get better than Colorado. And just based on the way that, we're not just taking like an early lead in all these different series that, we end up playing against these teams, it's concerning. I mean, you can just kind of notice this team starting to take a little bit of a nosedive here. So, if you're listening to this and you have some thoughts, please text us. I mean, are the Diamondbacks in trouble right now? 888-368-1580.
Big George on the text line, by the way, has an opinion. I think you can imagine what his opinion is, though. For once, Big George didn't recommend that we fire everybody, but he did say you cannot lose these games to the Rockies. These are must-win games for the Diamondbacks. We are only 2 games up on the Braves. If the Braves pass us, we don't make the playoffs. Simple as that.
Couldn't agree more. And I know we've talked in the past on this program about the Diamondbacks kind of prospects and what's the strategy going into the postseason. And it's a lot better for us to be hunters and not the hunted, and to come in with a lower seed. And I'm all for that stuff, but it's like Big George just said. I mean, these games against the Rockies, these are going to be the easiest chances we're going to have to rack up more wins, and you cannot let these games get away from you. And it's one thing if the Rockies hit, a home run to walk off the game, but when it's us shooting ourselves in the foot and we're just not completing, routine double plays to, try and keep ourselves in these games, it just doesn't make you feel very good about, where, everything's standing right now, and what the Diamondbacks will need to do to be able to, seal the deal and make it to the postseason. Looking at the relief pitching right now, they're currently ranked 23rd in all of Major League Baseball, just going off of ERA. The Diamondbacks bullpen is ranked 18, just based on total saves this year. So this is a bullpen that statistically is ranking in the bottom half of the league when you're looking at everything over the course of the full season. When I compare this to our run from last year, bullpen again still had its concerns, but things were coming together, in that final month of the regular season. And we started to see some of like the best baseball being played out of that team right when you wanted it, going straight into October, for the playoffs. And, after the All-Star break this year, the Diamondbacks were very largely the best team for a very long time, neck and neck with the Padres, best overall record, best hitting metrics. And now what's happened is over the last, couple of weeks, we're starting to tail off. We're starting to drop off a little bit. The Padres are staying consistent. They're currently in first for the wild card. That gap between us is starting to grow. And it would be really beneficial to at least come into that final 3 games against the Padres where, we're within 3 games striking distance of them. I mean, it'll help give more meaning to those games getting played. The last thing you want is for the Diamondbacks to just, lose out to the point where, they make it to that series and, it's like we have to win all 3 of those games. Otherwise, we have no shot, of making the last wild card spot.
Yeah. And I think if you remember last year, though, they did kind of back into the playoffs as well. They were playing the Cubs, I believe, last year, and they needed help to get in because they didn't win that series rolling into the playoffs before they got hot in the postseason. But I do agree. Like, I don't think that you should rely on other teams to help you out. It puts you in a really, really tough position, I think, moving into the postseason, because can you turn your offense on and on like a light switch? Can you turn your pitching on and off like a light switch? I don't know that you can. And if you can, I still don't know that that's a reliable way to play baseball. I wouldn't bet on that. The Diamondbacks didn't get a whole lot of help last night from the Mets, who are just right behind them. The Mets get the win over my Washington Nationals 2-1 in extra innings. That one went 10. Little help from the Braves losing to the Dodgers, but I mean, you're now playing that game where you're sitting there trying to figure out the calculus of, well, if we lose this game, but they also lose, then you just don't want to do that. That's a bad place to be, especially as a fan. I would also say as a bettor, either way, it just doesn't feel good. You're in a tough spot regardless of what you're doing.
And, as far as the wild card standings go right now, we are 2.5 games behind the Padres for that top spot. We're currently seated in the second wild card position. The New York Mets are just 1 game back of us, and then the Braves are 2 games back of us, but 1 game behind the Mets for that final spot. So the Diamondbacks, unfortunately, are now in this sort of game of musical chairs, so to speak, with the Mets and the Braves. So there's 3 people playing. There's only 2 seats, and someone's going to end up without a seat. And this is what it was going to take to get seated into one of those kind of lower 2 wild card spots. So it was never going to be a very comfortable position. Ideally, with the way that we want to be seated going into the playoffs, anything we can do to get matched up against the Brewers in the first round seems to be the most ideal route. We don't really want to have to go head to head with the Padres early on. If we can delay a head to head matchup against the Dodgers until at least, the second round or later, I think that would still be pretty ideal. So just going to be something to keep an eye on with the Diamondbacks here. And also, taking into consideration what's just going on with the health of our players right now. The injured list seems to be a bit of a revolving door. Like I mentioned, we did recently get some players back that we needed. Gabby Moreno is having some good at-bats, and it's good to see him kind of shake some rust off and get back into it. Christian Walker as well. Obviously, Ketel Marte, first at-bat yesterday, cranks a 2-run homer. He's starting to kind of get back into his groove, which is great. But at this point, we need all hands on deck. We need Lourdes Gurriel back. Ryan Nelson just, made a move to the injured list recently. He's going to be gone at least 15 days. So now for this game today, we've got Jordan Montgomery getting promoted back into the starting rotation. And you would think in this spot against the Rockies, this should be a game that Montgomery can win for us. But admittedly, he is a liability just to allow runs, as is the Rockies pitcher today, Feltner. So it's going to be interesting to see, how that plays out. The one thing I do appreciate about these Diamondbacks and Torey Lovullo as well is that it does seem like we have a very strong locker room culture. Torey, is very good at managing these guys and making sure that their head is, where it needs to be, and that no one's, ever getting a little too high or a little too low. And, everyone's very even keeled and just rolling with the punches and, is focused on the goal.
I also just want to give Torey some credit for how he gets blamed for being too patient sometimes, but he is patient with guys.
So having some bad games or a bad stretch of games, I don't think that this team gets too down. And that's I've seen lots of teams where the manager puts so much pressure on them to win, that when they end up in a tailspin, it turns into this funk that they can't get out of. I don't think that that's where the Diamondbacks are. I genuinely don't believe that this is a team that's spiraling out of control, at least not yet. And I think that part of that is the manager. He's being steady. I think he deserves some credit for that. And then there's some players who have just been very consistent, even with the wins not necessarily coming. We were talking about this before the show. Corbin Carroll continuing to play baseball at a very, very high level, and is one of the more consistent Diamondbacks when it comes to, like, I'm going to get a run or I'm going to get on base. And he continues to be a spark for this offense. I think he just needs some help, not just from the other bats on the roster, because the Diamondbacks were just killing the ball for the entire month of August, essentially. And then September comes around and they've slowed down a little bit. So they've got to get back to that. But he also needs some help. Obviously not just him, but the entire running unit of this team. They need some help from the pitching too.
Well, and that's another kind of aspect of it that I think has contributed to, this not being as kind of hot of a topic as maybe it should be. The Diamondbacks have been hitting the ball like remarkably well. I mean, you still look at their stats as a team over the last 30 days and even individually down to some players over the last 30 days. And like, there's a ton of bright spots. Gino Suarez, as of today, over the last 30 days, he is still tied for the lead in all of Major League Baseball with the most home runs hit over the past 30 days. He's tied for 10 with Willy Adames of the Milwaukee Brewers. The Diamondbacks as a team over the last 30 days are still leading baseball in on-base percentage, slugging percentage, OPS. So, I mean, these are still, important things to keep track of. It's basically as if the Diamondbacks are in this position now where in order to win these games, they have to overwhelm whoever they're playing with just offense. They just have to overwhelm them with hitting. And I mean, we've seen them do this time and time again this season. When they have these games where, like, in the first 3 innings, they manage to put up like over 5 runs or more. I'm just speculating at this point. I don't know this for a fact. I'd have to do some more research, but I have to imagine their win percentage has to be very, very high in games where they're putting up 5 or more runs, like after the first 3 innings.
I'm just looking at the last few games that they've played. They beat Milwaukee prior to this game against the Rockies 11-10, took them 10 innings. Then they lose to Milwaukee before, but they scored 8 runs. They gave up 15 was the problem. And then, 2-1 loss the day before. You go back to the Texas series, they lose 14-4. 4 runs is a respectable amount of runs in a game, but you can't give up 14 of them. Then they have a 6-0 victory over Texas the game before that. Then they beat Houston 12-6. They have some of these losses where another Houston matchup, they lose 11-5. 5's great. Can't give up 11. They lose 8 zip. So like either the bats get going completely or they don't work at all, but they don't seem to have enough pitching so that when they have those days where they're hitting the ball pretty well, for some reason they're giving up double-digit runs sometimes to other teams that are beating them. So that's putting them in a very, very bad position.
And some of those games that you shouted out where we're losing and the other teams got over double digits. I kind of hate to point out Brandon Pfaadt on this because he's really largely been like our best pitcher, in my opinion, for most of the season. But he's starting to kind of hit a little bit of a funk over his last few games. Diamondbacks have lost 3 out of his last 4 starts. So this is something where, when this guy's been leading our bullpen for most of the season and just being like the overall top performer, and now he's starting to slide a little bit, it has a big impact on, obviously the games that he's pitching in, but overall, I mean, whenever you have really good pitching, I think, the guys on the other kind of side of it, are going to be hitting the ball a lot more confidently, knowing that, they've got some weapons on the mound. They're going to be able to, prevent the other team from doing anything to really make it, competitive. So, I mean, the one kind of caveat to this is I do feel like Zach Gallen is finally starting to kind of put everything together and, really kind of shake off all the rust from the times that he had been out with injuries this season. And he does look like he's starting to put together some of his best starts of the year, which is definitely something that we need at this point in time. And he's slated to go up next this coming Friday in Milwaukee. So that's going to be a really important one. It looks like we are kind of positioning Fott, Gallen, Kelly, and then the next starter is undetermined for the rest of that series. So for the remainder of Colorado, we have Jordan Montgomery going tonight, but then we have Erod going tomorrow, and Erod has been very solid for us. Definitely helps to have him, being a full-time contributor in that starting rotation. We missed him for most of the year, and he's shown that he's been pretty steady. Diamondbacks have been pretty consistently winning when he starts. So, there's still an opportunity, still time for the Diamondbacks to, kind of right the ship, put things together, give the season a very strong finish. But we got to put the work in, and we have to follow through. And we certainly can't drop any more games to the Rockies. Definitely need to get these last two to win that series. And as long as we can do that, we'll put ourselves in a much more comfortable position to where all you really need to do in that Milwaukee series, the Giants series, the Padres series is just win the series. If you're going to drop a game here or there, no big deal. But let's get back to our winning ways. I don't know what the exact record was, but I know we had won like the vast majority of each in, season regular series that we played, up until recently. So
yeah, it was a nice run there. It was a nice run. So we'll get to some of the picks for today on the other side. Taco Kenny, I do see your text, but that I think falls under the purview of one Jeffrey O'Brien of the Daily Blender. This is a man card question. I am not the Southwest Regional Man Card Commissioner. That would be Jeffrey. So he'll answer that question a little bit later on. This is Beat the Book. That's Dylan Cohen. I'm Keon Rose. This is 1580 The Fanatic.
1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic.
Live and local.
4 years. That's how long it took Democrats to ruin our economy and plunge our southern border into anarchy. Who helped them hurt us? Ruben Gallego. Washington could have cut taxes for Arizona families, but Ruben blocked the bill. And his fellow Democrats gave a bigger break to the millionaire class in California and New York. They played favorites and cost us billions. And Ruben wasn't done yet. Democrats could have secured the border. Instead, they invited an invasion and used our tax dollars to pay for it. Ruben Gallego even backed a law to let them vote in our elections. Don't give Gallego and the Democrats another 4 years to hurt us. Give your support to a real Arizona leader, Kari Lake. Kari and the Republicans will secure the border, support our families, and never turn their backs on us. Kari Lake for Senate.
I'm Kari Lake, candidate for U.S. Senate, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Kari Lake for Senate and the NRSC.
I'm still going for it, even with higher stroke risk from atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Over a 3-year study, Eliquis apixaban tablets reduced stroke risk better than warfarin, and over 97% of Eliquis patients did not experience a stroke. A first stroke occurred in 2.9% of warfarin patients versus 2.3% of Eliquis patients.
Don't stop taking prescription Eliquis without asking your doctor. It may increase your stroke risk. Eliquis can cause serious and in rare cases fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or take longer for bleeding to stop. A spinal injection while on Eliquis increases risk of blood clots, which may cause paralysis, the inability to move. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding, unusual bruising, or tingling, numbness, or muscle weakness. Medications such as aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners may increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
My pain is considerable, but that prescription is dangerous.
The side effects of my medicine are worse than my condition.
I'm in recovery. I can't take those pills.
When faced with a health crisis, you shouldn't have to choose between risks.
At the Naturopathic Physicians Group in Scottsdale, our medical doctors are experts in full spectrum care using a natural approach. Patients come in for a variety of issues, including joint pain, chronic conditions, and issues specific to men's and women's health. Our naturopathic doctors can restore pain-free joint function and restore balance in immune, digestive, and hormone systems, which often improves immediate physical symptoms without having you take a bunch of pills. If traditional medicines aren't working, don't you think it's time to start feeling like yourself again? Call Naturopathic Physicians Group at 480-451-6161. That's 480-451-6161. Or go to naturopathicgroup.com.
Download our free sports app and stay up with all the latest sports news, scores, highlights, and more.
Or
Stream us live anywhere
at 1580thefanatic.com.
1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic, Arizona's home for sports.
So we came to the conclusion there. Diamondbacks, they can be okay. They can be okay, but we know what they have to do. Got to handle some business. Got to beat some winnable teams and start winning series again.
Sometimes,
honestly.
when your back's against the wall, that's kind of what it takes to, help you kind of move forward there. So hopefully we get a good game out of our D-backs tonight. And we'll go through some of the picks for today. If you don't follow me already on Instagram, my handle is at BeatTheBookFanatic, all spelled out. You can hit the link in the Instagram bio. That'll take you right to the Beat the Book website to view the picks. Likewise, you can visit 1580thefanatic.com. Scroll down, click on the Beat the Book with Dylan Cohen logo. That'll take you right to the same place, or you can just search it in your browser. I'm sure it'll take you right to where you need to get to. And when you get to the Beat the Book website, that is where all of the picks are posted Monday through Friday. And for today, first pick to get into is in the Houston Astros and San Diego Padres game. The Diamondback fans out there are not going to necessarily like rooting for this one, but just looking at it pretty objectively, I've got the San Diego Padres to win on the money line. They just defeated the Astros last night 3-1. There's a pretty good pitching matchup in this one today. The Astros have Hunter Brown going for them, and then the Padres have Michael King playing. Hunter Brown for the Astros is normally one of their more elite starting pitchers, but lately he just hasn't been performing as well for them. The Astros have lost 3 out of the last 4 games that he has started. With Michael King, that same stat does hold true for him. However, when you look at Michael King's last 3 starts at home, the Padres have won 3 out of 4 of the last 4 home starts for Michael King. So, in this game, the kind of deciding factor for me is just simply how hot the Padres have been hitting the ball right now. They lead all of baseball over the course of the season in team batting average. They're getting a lot of contributions from many different players: Manny Machado, Luis Arias. They've got what looks to be the National League Rookie of the Year in Jackson Merrill. So a lot of good things going for them today, and you can look to get them on the money line. And actually, if you were to visit sporttrade.com and use their implied probability calculator, you can plug in the odds for the Padres to win on the money line. And let's see, that is -120. So you can look at it as -120, or you can look at it as 54.5% likelihood to win. Whatever floats your boat with, how you prefer your odds to be structured. But there's definitely something to account for with thinking about these things as percentage likelihoods versus, standard American odds. So if you haven't already, make sure you sign up for Sport Trade. They do power this show, and they're going to be launching before the end of this month. So we will notify all of you of when that launch date is determined. It's going to be very soon. But these guys are going to be where you're going to want to place, all your bets. They're going to have better odds, better customer service, better in-game betting experience. So make sure you don't miss out on that. And then the next pick I wanted to cover is going to be in the WNBA. The WNBA season is winding down. There are only a couple of more games left. There's a pretty big slate today, and there's a matchup of 2 of the top teams in the league right now with the Minnesota Lynx and the Connecticut Sun. The Lynx, ever since the WNBA came back from the Olympics, they are wide and far the best team in the league. They are 11-1 by record. Mm-hmm. And they've already played the Sun a couple of times this season, but the most recent time they played was before the break. So we're talking over 2 months ago. So when you look at these teams on paper, the Sun have actually won both of the matchups so far, but they're by very small margins. And then, like I said, it was months ago. I mean, these are completely different teams now.
Yeah, you can, in fact, it almost feels like after the All-Star break, it's a completely different season. Everybody came back And the teams that were really going to be contenders have elevated themselves, and everyone else has kind of fallen a little bit by the wayside. So we're talking about a different season than when these two teams played, essentially.
And I did mention this in kind of the paragraph that I wrote about this, but one bet to keep an eye out on for this particular game. My pick in this one is for the Minnesota Lynx on the money line. They are currently priced as a slight underdog, so you can take advantage of some good value on how they're priced there. But assuming the Lynx win this game, and based on how things have gone in the previous two games that were played, you can expect this one to be close. I really don't think in either team's case that, you're going to really have a good chance of seeing one, really kind of blow out the other. So as long as that's the case, the Connecticut Sun, out of all of their losses this year, they have never lost at home by more than 10 points. So on FanDuel specifically, there is a margin of victory bet that you can place where you can take the Minnesota Lynx to win this game by a margin of 1 to 10 points. And the last time I looked at that, it was priced very close to 2-1 on the odds. So, I mean, with them already kind of wrongfully being considered the underdog in this one, and with how close these games have been, more than likely the Lynx, if they do win the game, it's going to be by a margin of 10 or less. So lots of value in looking to take that one as well. Keon, do you see kind of any sort of flaws in that? I mean, do you think the Sun might actually have a chance in that one?
I mean, the Sun have a chance. I mean, they are a great team. They've got great players. Alyssa Thomas has been playing really well, but like, I think the Lynx have got their number here. I really do. I like the pick, but I also just like that the Lynx have just been playing basketball at such a high level. Like you said, 11-1 is there isn't anybody else in the WNBA doing that. I mean, it's the kind of momentum that you'd love to see to carry your team into a playoffs. And I think that that's important to them. I think it would send a very strong message if they were able to beat the Sun tonight for their first round of the playoffs. I think I don't know if they're one of the Sunday games, which we talked about the show, how silly that was, that they're going to try and go up against the NFL for the playoffs. Yeah, I don't like that very much. But yeah, if they're playing Sunday, I think this would be a very strong win for them to end the season with and have a strong note to go out on.
Well, and the thing with the Lynx right now too, with the standings, they don't do like the postseason split by the conference in the WNBA. They just group everyone together, and then you get pooled, top seed through the 8th seed. So for the Lynx, they're currently 2 games behind the Liberty, and they own the regular season series matchup. So it would require the Liberty to lose their next 2 games, and the Liberty play at the Mystics tonight. So this is why it's probably doubtful. But in the event the Liberty lose their next 2 games and the Lynx win their next 2 games, the Lynx would overtake the Liberty for that top spot.
And it is doubtful, but I just want to point out that the Liberty have a tendency to every now and then just lay an egg. Just bad team. They're playing. They're clearly not dialed in that night. They lose the game. I don't know why. Team's too good. They're too talented. But it happens every now and then with them. I don't know why.
You're starting to stoke my NFL trauma.
But that's the thing is I don't know that I've let go of mine. I think that's what's happening is my NFL trauma is just leaking into everything else that I see, because I can't get over the fact that there are teams that are supposed to lose and then they don't, for whatever reason. By the way, before we wrap things up here, Dylan, Baker's Cocky Hands has a request. He says, get off of Instagram and post on X, man. And he channels the 72-year-old Bill Belichick and says, I'm not downloading InstaFace.
Well, I kind of have that same attitude about X.
About X.
I think we're a little bit of like an impasse right now.
Uh-oh. All right, we got 30 seconds left. You want to get this thing wrapped up?
Yeah, so like I said before, just visit the Beat the Book website. You can follow me on Instagram. You can go to 1580thefanatic.com to get there. And there's a number of other picks. There's 10 other bets to consider. There is a long shot parlay. These are going to be plays on baseball and WNBA. So go on there and check it out. And don't forget to download Sport Trade. Get your account set up. They will be launching before the end of this month. We'll keep you updated on when that launch date gets announced.
Beat the Book. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Hey, football fans, Michael Vick here. I had an advantage. My legs were a weapon. 6,109 rushing yards, still unbeaten records. That's why I bet at BetUS.com. They offer American sports.